At family dinner, Dad announced. We decided go to Europe without you, Sister said. Right. Then I asked. Do you know that Gold sister lost your money? Their faces turned pale. It was my sister Ashley's 23rd birthday dinner, and by this time I had lost count of how many drinks had been passed around. My dad was 5 drinks in when he suddenly tapped his glass with a fork and stood up as if he were about to make a grand toast. He looked around with a grin on his face and said, We decided to go to Europe without you, Kevin. I blinked. Without me? I waited for the punchline, but Ashley cut in before I could say anything. Good, she said, smiling as if she had just told the joke of the century. Everyone at the table laughed, but it was one of those awkward, half-hearted laughs where people aren't sure if it's okay to laugh. I wasn't even angry. Honestly, it was just another reminder that I was always the odd one out. It wasn't the first time this had happened. My parents had taken 4 big trips in the past few years and I had never been invited. I always made excuses, work, schedule, whatever. But this time I wasn't in the mood to pretend. So I laughed too, which caught everyone off guard. I leaned back in my chair and asked, What money do you plan to use for this trip? Mom and Dad exchanged confused looks. What do you mean? Dad asked, the grin fading from his face. I chuckled again and shook my head. Do you know that Ashley and her husband spent all the money you gave them? You could have heard a pin drop. Ashley's expression hardened instantly. That's not true, she snapped. Dad's face darkened. What money are you talking about? I sighed and decided to lay it all out. The money you gave Ashley and her husband to save for a house. They're not saving it. They're blowing it on clubs and restaurants and other crap. The accounts you set up for them? They're empty. For a moment, no one moved. Dad stared at Ashley, then at her husband Josh, who looked like he wanted to sink into the floor. Mom's mouth opened slightly, as if she was trying to process what I had just said. Kevin's lying, Ashley blurted out. You always do that. You can't stand to see me happy, so you make up stories to turn Mom and Dad against me. You can check the accounts yourself, I said with a shrug. It won't take long to see who's telling the truth. Josh didn't say a word. He just kept staring at his plate, hoping everyone would forget he was there. Ashley glared at him, but he remained silent, which only made her angrier. And just like that, the fight exploded. My parents yelled at Ashley and Josh, demanding answers, while Ashley fired back at them and at me. I sat there for a minute, watching the chaos. It was as if all the resentment and tension from years of favoritism, broken promises, and unspoken grudges were boiling over in real time. But I'd had enough. I quietly got up and walked out. No one even noticed I was gone. This dinner was supposed to be a celebration for Ashley, but instead it had turned into an all-out war. To be honest, I didn't feel guilty about it. After everything they'd put me through, being treated like an afterthought, only invited to family events because Grandma insisted, I figured they had it coming. And maybe this time they'd finally see Ashley for who she really was. The next morning, my phone started to explode. Missed calls from Mom and Dad. Texts asking where I was, if I was okay. It was like they suddenly remembered I existed. I didn't respond at first. I wasn't in a hurry to get back into their drama, especially after last night's circus. When I finally decided to call Mom back, she was practically vibrating through the phone. Kevin, why didn't you tell us sooner? She demanded. I laughed. Do you think you would have believed me if I had? She became quiet. I could tell that she was thinking about it, probably realizing that I was right. Over the years, they had always sided with Ashley. She was their golden child, the one who could do no wrong. Meanwhile, I was the loser. Even after I got fired from my last job, it wasn't just the pitying looks I got from them, it was the way they started treating me like I wasn't worth their time. If Grandma hadn't kept insisting that I come to family gatherings, they probably would have stopped inviting me altogether. We checked the accounts. Mom finally said, You were right. Of course I was right. Ashley and Josh had been blowing through their savings for months. I'd heard about it from mutual friends who'd seen them at expensive restaurants and nightclubs. I hadn't planned on saying anything, but after Dad's little announcement last night, I couldn't hold my tongue. It wasn't just about the trip. It was about years of feeling like I was on the outside looking in. What's going to happen now? I asked, more out of curiosity than concern. Well, your father is angry. He's been fighting with Ashley all morning. Josh left the house early and hasn't come back. We're trying to figure out what to do next. Her voice softened. Look, Kevin. I'm sorry. For everything. We didn't realize how bad things had gotten between you and Ashley. We want to make things right. I wasn't expecting this. I didn't know how to respond. So I kept it simple. Okay. After we hung up, I sat there for a while, letting it sink in. I wasn't sure if I could trust this sudden change in attitude. Part of me wondered if it was just embarrassment, angry at Ashley, sure, but probably ashamed of how blind they'd been. Still, a small part of me felt relieved. Like maybe things could finally change. Later that afternoon, Dad called. He didn't say much at first, just grumbling about how disappointed he was in Ashley and how Josh was a freeloader. But then he surprised me. Listen, your mom and I have been talking. We want to make it up to you. How about you come on a trip with us? Just us. No, Ashley. I had to stop myself from laughing. You're serious? Yeah. We were thinking of taking a road trip up the coast. Something simple, just to spend some time together. We owe you that much. This was definitely new. A year ago, the idea of my parents inviting me on a trip just me would have been unthinkable. And here they were, trying to make things right. It felt strange. But also somehow, satisfying. Like all those years of being overlooked were finally paying off. I'll think about it, I said, trying to sound casual. Good. Let us know, Dad replied before hanging up. I knew this was far from over. Ashley wouldn't go down without a fight. And I doubted Josh would stick around much longer, especially now that my parents were turning against her. But for the first time in a long time, I felt like I had the upper hand. It wasn't about revenge, okay, maybe a little bit, but it was more about finally getting some recognition. They couldn't ignore me anymore. The next day I got another call, but this time it was from Ashley. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. I figured she would either apologize or yell at me. It was always one or the other with her. You really think you're hot shit now, don't you? She hissed the second I answered. I sighed. What do you want, Ashley? You had no right to bring that up in front of everyone, she said. You ruined everything. Josh is pissed, my husband might leave, and Mom and Dad won't stop interrogating me. All because you couldn't keep your mouth shut. Maybe you should have thought about that before you spent all their money. I shot back. This isn't my fault, Ash. You did this to yourself. You think you're better than me? You've been unemployed for months. You're basically living off Grandma's charity. The only reason they invited you to dinner was because she begged them to. That stung, but I wasn't going to let her see it. Funny how you're the one who's broke now, not me, I said. Good luck explaining that to Mom and Dad. She let out a frustrated growl and hung up. Typical Ashley, always trying to shift the blame to someone else when things didn't go her way. I figured that was the last I'd hear from her for a while, but I was wrong. Later that day, Mom called me again. Kevin, can you come over? Things are escalating. Escalating how? Josh packed up his stuff and left. Ashley is in a bad place right now. She's saying some disturbing things. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to stay out of it, but I couldn't help but feel a little guilty. I didn't want anything bad to happen to her, no matter how much we clashed. I'll be there soon, I said. When I arrived at my parents' house, the atmosphere was tense. Ashley was in the living room, pacing and ranting about how everyone was against her. Mom and Dad were sitting on the couch, looking exhausted. Josh was nowhere to be seen. Are you happy now? Ashley spat as soon as she saw me. Josh left because of you. Josh left because he doesn't want to face Mom and Dad, I replied. Don't put that on me. You don't understand anything, she snapped. You think I'm just some spoiled brat, but I've been under so much pressure. Josh has been unemployed for almost a year. We didn't want to tell anyone because we knew you'd judge us. That took me by surprise. I had no idea that Josh was unemployed. So why didn't you ask for help instead of spending all that money? We thought we could handle it ourselves. We thought things would turn around. But everything went downhill, and now I'm the bad guy. It was the most honest thing I'd heard her say in years. For a moment I almost felt sorry for her. But then she added, and of course you couldn't wait to kick me when I was down. That's not what this was about, I said, shaking my head. I just wanted Mom and Dad to see the truth. Yeah, well, congratulations. Mission accomplished. Before I could answer, Dad stood up and said, Enough. We've all made mistakes here, but this fighting is not helping anyone. Ashley, you have to take responsibility for your actions. And Kevin, you're not off the hook either. We should have been there for you when you lost your job. We're a family, and we need to start acting like it. It was a rare moment of clarity from Dad. He was usually the last person to admit a mistake. But I wasn't sure how much of this family unity speech I believed. Too much damage had been done over the years. Still, it was a start. After a tense silence, Ashley finally muttered, Whatever, and stormed off to her old bedroom. I stayed a little longer and talked to Mom and Dad about everything that had happened. They seemed determined to make things right with me, which felt strange after being treated like an outsider for so long. But I wasn't going to make it easy for them. They'd have to earn my trust again. As I was leaving, Dad stopped me at the door. Hey, about that trip. We've been looking at some places. We'd really like you to come with us. I hesitated for a moment, then nodded. I'll think about it. When I got home, I found a text message from Grandma. Proud of you, Kevin. You deserve better. It hit me harder than I expected. She was the only one who'd always been in my corner. And now, for the first time, it felt like my parents were finally coming around. But I knew it wasn't over. There were still a lot of cracks in our family that needed to be mended. And Ashley? I had a feeling her problems were just beginning. I didn't expect to hear from Grandma so soon after everything that had happened, but she called me early the next morning. Her voice was calm, but there was a sharpness to her tone that I hadn't heard in a long time. Kevin, I thought you should know what happened to your sister, she began. I sat up, already feeling a sense of dread. What did she do this time? Grandma sighed. She came over late last night. She was drunk and angry at me for always supporting you. She said you had turned Mom and Dad against them, and it was all my fault for coddling you. I wasn't surprised. Ashley was always obsessed with being the golden child, and after last night's explosion, she must have felt like her image was crumbling. But what Graham said next took me completely by surprise. She tried to threaten me, Kevin. Can you believe that? Wait, what do you mean threaten? She said if I didn't make things right, she'd tell everyone I was losing it and try to get control of my finances. She said she would convince your parents that I was no longer fit to live alone. I was stunned. She said that? She did. Grandma's voice hardened. But she didn't expect me to fight back. I told her that I would not be blackmailed by my own granddaughter. I warned her that I would call the police if she didn't leave. Did she leave? I asked, feeling a knot of fear form in my chest. Not at first. She tried to bluff me, said I wouldn't dare. But you know me, Kevin, I don't play games. I called the cops right in front of her. That finally scared her off. She ran out like a coward. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Ashley had always been manipulative, but this was a new low. Threatening Grandma just to get back at me? That was beyond anything I'd ever imagined. Why would she go that far? I asked, shaking my head. Simple, Grandma said. She's desperate. You exposed her lies. For years your parents believed she was the perfect daughter. Now that image is shattered, and she blames you for ruining it. She's lashing out because she's afraid of losing control. I didn't know what to say. Part of me was angry, but another part just felt sad. Ashley had always been competitive with me, always needed to be the center of attention. But this was the first time I realized how fragile her world really was. "I'm sorry, Grandma," I said quietly. "Don't be," she replied. "This isn't your fault. Ashley made her choices. But you have to be careful. I don't think she's done trying to cause trouble." "Yeah, I thought so," I muttered. Grams paused for a moment, then added, "You're not alone in this, Kevin. Your parents are starting to see the truth, and I'll always have your back. Don't let them get to you." "I won't," I promised. After we hung up, I sat there for a long time, thinking about everything that had happened. Ashley was spiraling, and it was only a matter of time before she tried something else. But this time I wasn't going to let her take me down with her. After the incident at Grandma's, word spread fast. I didn't need to tell Mom and Dad anything. Grandma had already filled them in. And that was the final straw. My parents cut Ashley off completely. No more money, no more support. They stopped taking her calls, blocked her on everything, and made it clear that until she took responsibility for her actions, she wasn't welcome in their lives. It was surreal to see. The same parents who had defended her at every turn for years were now done with her. Ashley didn't handle it well. She tried everything: angry texts, guilt trips, and even showing up at Dad's office. Nothing worked. Slowly, she faded out of our lives. I didn't hear much about her for weeks. Josh, meanwhile, officially moved out and filed for divorce. He wasn't a great guy, but I guess even he had reached his limit with her. I figured Ashley was probably couch surfing somewhere, biding her time until she found a way to claw her way back. Then, about 2 months later, she showed up at my parents' house out of the blue. I wasn't there, but Mom filled me in on what happened. "She just appeared on our doorstep," Mom said over the phone. "She looked awful. Like she hadn't slept or eaten properly in weeks." "What did she want?" I asked, though I could already guess. "She said she had nowhere else to go. She begged us to let her stay, just for a while. Said she was ready to start over and fix things. And we told her no." I was honestly shocked. "You really turned her away?" "Yes. Your father and I agreed. We couldn't enable her anymore. We told her she needed to take accountability for everything she'd done, to us and to you. And until she did that, she couldn't stay here." "How did she take it?" "Not well," Mom admitted. "She got angry, accused us of abandoning her. Said we were brainwashed by you and Grandma. But we stood our ground. Eventually, she left." I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. For once, my parents had put their foot down. It was weird. Part of me felt bad for Ashley. She was my sister, after all. But another part of me felt vindicated. She had always gotten away with everything, always been the favorite. Now, she was finally facing the consequences. "What do you think she's going to do now?" I asked. "I don't know," Mom said softly. "I just hope she figures things out. But Kevin, we're not going to let her hurt this family anymore. We're done." Hearing that gave me a strange sense of closure. For years, I'd been the one cast aside while Ashley got everything handed to her. Now the tables had turned. A few days later, I heard through a mutual friend that Ashley was staying at a cheap motel on the edge of town. No job, no husband, no family to rely on. She had burned all her bridges. For the first time in her life, she was completely on her own. A few months passed, and just like that, Ashley became a ghost. I barely heard anything about her, and neither did my parents. Word spread through family and friends that she'd moved to another city, a few hours away. No one knew exactly where, and honestly, no one seemed eager to find out. It was like everyone finally saw her for what she was, a manipulator who couldn't handle not being in control. As for me, things actually started improving. Mom and Dad were making a real effort. We spent more time together, had normal conversations without the usual tension, and even talked about the things that had happened over the years. They admitted they hadn't been fair to me, especially after I lost my job. It wasn't some magical, overnight fix, but it felt like we were finally becoming a real family. The road trip Dad had mentioned? We actually went on it. Just me and my parents. It was weird at first. There was this awkwardness hanging in the air, like none of us knew how to act without Ashley around. But as the days went on, that awkwardness faded. We laughed, shared stories, and for the first time in forever, I didn't feel like the extra kid no one wanted around. Ashley, meanwhile, tried a different approach. After months of silence, she reached out to me again. This time, there were no threats, no accusations. Instead, she played the victim. "Kevin, I know I messed up," she wrote in one of her messages. "I'm sorry for everything. I've been through so much. Josh left me, Mom and Dad turned their backs on me, and now I'm all alone. I don't have anyone. Please, can we just talk?" I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to believe her. Maybe she really was ready to change. But another part of me, the smarter part, knew better. I had seen this pattern too many times. Ashley didn't reach out because she cared about me. She reached out because she wanted something, and I wasn't going to fall for it again. I didn't respond. Neither did my parents when she tried to contact them again. They were done with her games. The last I heard, Ashley was still living alone in that new city. She'd found a part-time job and was scraping by, but she hadn't made any real progress. No big comeback story. Just her, isolated and trying to rebuild a life she had wrecked with her own choices. It's strange. I used to resent her so much, but now I just feel indifferent. I don't hate her anymore, but I don't pity her either. She made her bed, and now she has to lie in it. As for me, life's finally looking up. My parents and I have a healthy relationship now, and they've stopped treating me like an outsider. I've even started looking for a new job and working on getting my life back on track. It's funny how things can turn around when people finally stop pretending everything's perfect. For once, I feel like I'm not the loser of the family anymore. I'm just Kevin, and honestly, that's enough for me. And that's how things ended with Ashley. Sometimes the people who try to control everything end up losing it all. I guess she learned that the hard way.